Hello everyone, how are you all doing? I hope you're all doing fine and welcome to Glecta. This is your biology session where we've been talking about a lot of ecosystem these days, and today we're going to start with a new topic. In the last few lectures, we were talking about the environment in general. We were talking about producers and consumers, and we also talked about decomposers, and we also talked about the material cycles. But let's now consider very grave topics, and this section of your syllabus would now focus on the mistakes, the problems that humans have specifically created for themselves and as well as for other organisms on the planet. So this is going to be about biodiversity and the ecosystem. So now we're going to connect the ecosystem with the biodiversity, in biodiversity specifically about humans. Today's topic is going to be the human explosion. The population that has been exploding, like quite literally exploding. We have a lot of examples of human population increasing. At one point of time, everything was in control because the population was in control. Now the population is, increasing like exponentially, and that is disturbing a lot of things around us. So first of all, let's try to connect this with humans. So what I want you guys to do is jot down the activities that humans do, and you think that these activities may or may not, in a way, change the environment. So you guys write down yours. I'm going to write down mine. You can pause the video and start. I don't think the list is ended as of yet, but this is the basics that come to my head right now. We always can add a lot of things to this list. Maybe you guys must have written something that I have not mentioned here. But my basic point says that we have industries. Population increase requires a lot of more food, and we're also moving towards luxury, so that requires manufacturing of a lot of things. So industries are polluting the environment. Deforestation for living, for building new industries, for land for agriculture, we are deforesting at a level where we don't even consider what is going to happen because of that. Vehicles, extreme pollution. Garbage that has been collected on land and that has been thrown in the water, both of them are creating pollution at another level. Smoking. I've mentioned just smoking, but I mean anything that has to do with polluting the air, like also burning the garbage. Then using non-biodegradable substances like plastics for, like polythenes, and using handbags that are made up of non-biodegradable substances and stuff. And also using sulfanes and other technologies. They are radiating such harmful, radiations, I would say, that are, creating problems not just for humans, but also for other organisms like birds. Birds are extremely disturbed because of the radiations that come out from the tars of sulfanes. And they also are, affected to a level where, they forget their ways and they forget their directions. So that's one thing. So I hope you guys understand the meaning of all of these, and I hope you guys understand how grave this thing is that we are creating problems for our own self. The activities of human on the planet has changed the balance of nature on the planet enormously. That's true. We were supposed to live a certain way so that everything around us is balanced. For example, We had to maintain the food chain. We had to maintain the material cycles. But instead, what is happening? We are disturbing the material cycles. We are deforesting, which is disturbing the carbon dioxide cycle. We are polluting the water bodies, changing the water cycle. I'm just talking about these two, but I actually mean that we are at a level that we are disturbing quite literally everything on the planet just so that we can have a luxurious lives. Due to these, a lot of species have been driven to extinction. Extinction is when a species, not even single member of that species is left on the planet. Recently, you guys must have heard about the white rhino. The male white rhino died, and then there were two females left, out of which recently even one female has died. There's only one female which cannot carry forward the species until unless she was fertilized with a white rhino, which she has not been. So that means once that female rhino, white rhino dies, white rhinos on the planet Earth would go extinct. Like a lot of species have. Have you guys ever noticed that sparrows are not as common these days as they were before? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, early in the morning, there would be chirping of sparrows. These days, we hardly see any. So these are small things because they're not disturbing us. There's nothing changing in humans' life. Then we don't really see the differences. But at the same time, if you try and focus on the things that have been changing around you, you would understand how much has changed. So human activities, I would not say that they're doing just bad. They're doing a lot of good as well. I mean, come on, we're living on the planet. We are doing the good. But at the same time, the bad, I would say, overpowers the good sometimes, because at the end of the day, it is us who have to live on the planet and it is us who is destroying that. So the bad ones is that we have invasive plant uses, quite literally using plants a lot of times. And we're actually, I would say changing the plants, which is not right in certain level if we want to maintain the planet. Okay, the time that I, try and understand what has been changing, there's two scenarios in my head. One is the present, and the other one is imagine a world where there was no vehicles, there was no cell phones, there was no industries. Like people were living like a normal life. So when I imagine that, I don't know why, it's just like a breath of fresh air, but this is like wearing mask and stuff. Then we have non-native plants coming from various places because humans want them around them. And then there's pollution that we've been creating, of course. There's global warming as a result of lots of human activities. Harmful hybrids have been made by humans. And then there's deforestation. This does not end here. We have listed a lot of more, but this is like a basic idea of what has been enormously changed. On the other hand, humans are also trying to conserve the species. We are trying to clean up the environment as well. But if you think about it, we are the ones who, dirtied it in the first place. We are using composites these days and we are trying to make this better. We are recycling now, recycling the stuff that we use, and then less chemicals. Humans are moving towards less chemicals. And then there's X-ray escaping, which is, I would say using the right kind of radiations. So we are doing good. It's not like humans are doing all bad. I get that humans are trying to do good. But I think the doing good came a lot later than it should have, because there's something that is known as sustainable development. Sustainable development is when the population that is on the planet right now, which is like us, are using the resources of the planet in a way that even the next generation can use them. Right now, we're not doing that. At least we were not earlier. Now we are trying to use sustainable development as, we're trying to use resources in a way that can be used in the next generation. But initially, it was not like that. So I think humans have been very selfish and greedy initially, and that is why we have driven the planet to a point where even the planet itself is retaliating in a lots of ways. You can say a lot of diseases are coming up. You can, and if you think that diseases is not a way of planet's, retaliation, you should think about it again. We are polluting it. We are, a lot of places on the planet are still not properly sanitized, and the sanitation is dirtiest. And we are creating situations where some parts of the planet are quite literally dumps, just dumps of garbage and garbage. So yes, we are, in ourselves creating a lot of problems for ourselves, one of which is a disease. It can be a disease which is related to hygiene, so like a fungal infection maybe, but we are doing that for ourselves. Then if you think about it, the ozone layer is giving up on us, and the ice caps have been melting. Like everything that is going wrong, one way or the other, is a responsibility that humans had to take, but they could not. Biodiversity and why it matters. Biodiversity is the measure of variety of all the different species of organism on Earth or in a particular ecosystem. All the species. When we were talking about quadrant systems, we talked about biodiversity at that point as well. And we were trying to understand that a lot of species on the planet live in harmony together. And if the biodiversity is high, that would lead to a stable ecosystem. For example, humans eat plants. If the amount of plants on the planet are also good, and the amount of humans on the planet is also good, then it can be balanced, right? But if, for say, human population increases exponentially a lot, and at the same time humans are also deforesting, then that means at one point of time we would not have enough food on the planet. And for a fact, a lot of places on the planet do not have enough food for their population. This reduces the dependence of species on each other for survival. Like I said, in a high biodiversity ecosystem, if a species is removed, the effect of the same and on the other species will be minimal as compared to as of a low biodiversity region. For example, where we live, the food is, I would not say we're going into scarcity of food, but at the same time, in some places on the planet, they are going into food scarcity. That's because we are depending on one species, which is plants, so much that we are technically taking that species as much as we can. And in turn, that species have, the amount of that species on the planet has reduced, and humans that are depending on it are now, are in hunger, and they're, in a position where a lot of wrongs have happened. So we are depending on one species. But at the same time, if we talk about, okay, so let's say this is the place where there's food scarcity, because this was an entire land for cultivation and agriculture. And now it has all been used. So only like a small area, let's say this one, is left for agriculture. On the other hand, there's another place where still this much amount of land is used for agriculture, and this is where humans are living. So this is like a high biodiversity. Plants are also there, humans are also there. There must be other animals as well, other plants as well. So this is like a high biodiversity. No person would die of scarcity of food. Here they would, because there's an unbalanced situation. There's not a stable ecosystem in the environment here. And that is how we see. And if you think about it, if humans would have from starting thought about sustainable development, this situation would not have arisen. It would not have been exaggerated to a level that it has now. So this is about biodiversity. And if we talk about human population growth, this is how it has been growing. So if you look at this, it was okay. Like not a lot of people. It was okay. From here, which is like 1500s, it started to exponentially increase and increase every year. And now, if you think about it, it's like this. This graph is right straight up. And that means the population is increasing every single day. And that's a lot. And that is something that disturbs the planet. This amount of population of humans was not supposed to be on the planet. If you think about it, if we would have been nomads, we would not have had agricultures, or we would not have had industrialization, if you ask me. We would have lived in jungles or maybe like, woods, and we would have lived like normal animals too. And that, I think, would have controlled the situation a lot, because we would not be using vehicles and cell phones and industries, and we would not be deforesting things. We would instead be living around a lots of trees, better air. So the population increase may be a good thing because a lot of intelligent people are there. They're doing good for the society. But if you think about it, do you think every good for the society is actually good for the environment? Each day there's a new invention. Each day there's something new that has been researched on, something that is trying to prolong human life. But do you think prolonging human life is doing good to the planet? Because a lot of kids are born these days, but most of the kids, I will not say most, but majority, is that kids are born with a lot of disorders. And people these days are not even moving towards having kids. A lot of couples prefer not to have kids these days. So, which means the birth rate is not that much. Not a lot of people are being born on the planet. And even if there are lots of issues coming up. But at the same time, if I compare this, still a lot of kids are being born. After this, we are also trying to, prolong person's life by using machines like ventilators, and hospitals prolong their life by different medications and treatments. So a lot of kids are being born. The deaths, the people who are supposed to die are not dying. The population is increasing. And that is what is happening on the planet. We artificially are trying to prolong human life because of emotions and because of the technologies that are increasing. And that is now leading to problems, and that is now leading to human population explosion. So first is that the birth rate is increasing, and the second is that the death rate is decreasing because we're prolonging human life. And this is how the disturbance starts at the first place. If you think about it, if a human is supposed to die because of a certain disease or disorder, or maybe about any situation that a human is supposed to die and they're not dying because doctors are prolonging the life, and new babies are being born every single day, this would lead to a lot of disturbances, because if you think about it, we are changing the environment. We are changing the basic rule of the environment, that a person is supposed to die because of this disorder, and we're not letting them die. So you are changing the environment one way or the other. If the population of any other species of animal or plant suddenly increased like the human population has, the nature would tend to restore the balance. But that's something that we can't, afford. Humans can't afford. If you think about it, human population increases a lot, but at the same time, we're cutting the plants, not letting them increase their population. Other animals, until unless the plant animal is in the jungle, we are also controlling that by forming biodiversities, natural parks, restricting their area. So instead of letting everybody live in harmony, humans are actually, expanding their area, and, I would say squeezing or, somewhat decreasing the area of other organisms. If you think about it, Lion is the king of the jungle, but that does not mean that humans are not controlling tigers or lions, actually. If you think about it, biodiversities have them, natural parks have them, but it's not like a lot of them are in the wild these days. So we are actually controlling not only our life, humans' life, but also we're trying to manipulate other organisms' lives as well. Predators, lack of food, build-up of waste products, or disease would the population, or disease with the population again, which means it would decrease the population again. How? If humans had a natural predator. Think about it. If we had a natural predator like we now do, coronavirus. I mean, if you think about it, it was quite literally a very powerful predator. It was killing a lot of humans. Lack of food. Parts of the planet which have scarcity of food, people there are dying because of lack of food. Build-up of waste products, where there's no proper solutions for waste disposal. People are dying there because of diseases, and also the natural diseases that we already have. That would decrease the population again, but the increase is too high that this decrease that does not even look at this. I mean, we don't even look at this decrease because the increase is already very, very high. So irrespective of that the humans are dying, irrespective of that, we are trying to change things, but the population is still increasing. That is exactly why a lot of countries on the planet have started using policies for the number of child that are, I would say, allowed in the country. Humans have learned how to grow more food, develop medicines to prolong life, and have no natural predator. This helps explain why the human population has grown so fast. If we had any of these, we might have had not, increased the population so much, or we might not have as well have reached this amount of population. Humans also use resources of the planet to make their life easy, like fossil fuels for electricity and transport, and make plastics, minerals from rocks and soil to grow food. So we're technically using everything that's available on the planet for our use. We're not actually letting any other organism use it to a level that we are using. If you think about it, if tomorrow there's an organism that comes and tries to fight humans for water, humans will manipulate that situation in a way that humans win it. Because we humans have started to think that it's our, right to have I would say, to have like a grasp of anything that is on the planet and think of it as ours. It's not. You are using something that's from the planet, so it technically belongs to the planet, but you are using it, which means you need to give it back to the environment, which humans are not doing right now. And that is where the problem arises. The more people there are, more resources are being consumed. What are the effects on land and resources because of human population explosion? Use of land for building houses, industries, shops, and markets destroy the habitat of other organisms and reduce biodiversity. Okay, if you look around yourself, you must have at least one place that's like now abandoned, but looks like that sometime back, it must have been a place for a lot of animals to live. Like I have like it's not really a garden, but it's like an entire range which is abandoned now, and it looks like a park now. But if you actually explore that environment and that area, you would realize that it must have been once like a wood, or it must have been like a forest area. So a lot of organisms might have lived there, But now we have like roads through them, and we have buildings around the place. So naturally, the animals, because they don't like how we live, they leave that place and go somewhere else. Land use for farming affects the biodiversity in the same manner, because okay, this is something that destroys forest to another level. For humans to use that land for houses, industries, shops, and markets, the wood can be used, the trees can be used, and I think it's a policy for the government that if you cut trees, you're supposed to plant them as well. So that's there. But for farming, what happens is there's something that's known as slash and burn. Because for farming, we need like a fertile soil, and we also need a land where there's no trees because we need to farm things there. Humans actually burn the trees. So there's like quite literally cutting down the trees and burning them to ground. And then using that land for farming. And they don't really plant those trees anywhere. So that's like destroying the forest to the utmost level. Humans dig up lands for obtaining metal ores and minerals, leading to lesser land availability for other organisms. Mining. That happens a lot. And if you think about it, if you're mining in some area, of course, no animal would try and come there because they don't want to die and they don't want to fight. Waste produced by humans pollute the environment and afterward consume land for treatment. Like I said, we're disturbing it, we're destroying it, we're polluting it, and then we're trying to clean it. So if you think about it, there are dumps of garbage on the land, and then we also have a treatment plant. Both of them consuming land. So if you would not have, made so much waste, no treatment plant would have been in the place. So we would have land from both of those. Using valuable and irreplaceable sources such as crude oil and natural gases at a fast rate degrades the environment and restricts the availability of substances in near future. Using petrol, using crude oil and natural gases. These things are precious. These things are not so much on the planet. So we need to make sure that we are not actually destroying them. Using them? Yes, okay. But we, at this rate, the rate that we're using them, are technically destroying them. Rapid growth of human population, along with improvements in the way of living, increases the waste production, including human feces, uneaten food, disposable goods, and packaging materials. Humans are creating waste with a lot of things. If you think about it, you can actually make a list of things that you're using and they're potentially just waste. Pens. The body of the pen can be recycled, yes, but at the same time, now that the technology or now that the understanding of humans how we're creating waste have increased, that's when these bodies are now recyclable. Initially, these were not recyclable. And if you think about it and you look around yourself, you would find so many things with plastic, so many things. And that's just one part of it. Human feces is waste. Uneaten food is waste. Disposable goods and packaging materials like polythene, these are all waste, like quite literally just waste. Dumping this waste leads to disturbances in the life of other organisms, except scavengers. Scavengers can eat this, but at the other part of it, not all organisms are capable of that, which means we're disturbing majority of other organisms just because we are producing waste. With industrialization, the industry's waste increase as well. And this is like the most hazardous things that we humans produce. Because most of these wastes cannot even be recycled. and their half-lives are quite literally very long. Half-lives means some things take millions of years to degrade, thousands of years. And half-life is to try and estimate how much of those years it is, how much of 1,000 years it would take to degrade. So that is how we know that industrial waste is another level of waste production. If not properly handled, this waste accumulation can cause serious pollution, for example, water pollution because of sewage, fertilizers, industrial chemicals. Like I said, industrial chemicals are literally a lot of bad things. Okay, we are going to discuss these three populations, which is water, air, and land, in the next session. So here we can have an idea from what things are we going to have pollutions of each. Like air pollution can be caused by smoke, poisonous gases like sulfur dioxide. And land pollution is created by toxic waste like pesticides and herbicides, industrial waste like heavy metals. These chemicals are washed from land into the water bodies, polluting them as well, which means land pollution and water pollution are always connected. Because for a fact, everything that is on the land, when the rain comes, it does go down in the drains, and then drain goes into the water bodies. So we are polluting one after the other, systems of the planet. And this completes the section where we had to understand the human explosion. Now, what I want you guys to do is try and make a list of things that you use in the house and they are going to potentially harm the other organisms. My point is not that we're creating waste, because for a fact we are. But my point is that we should not disturb other organisms' life, specifically when we can, try and reduce it. So try and make a list of things that are disturbing the population of other organisms around you. And once you've done that, try to make a list of things that you can do to stop that. So I hope you guys would do this, and I'll meet you guys in the next lecture. Till then, bye-bye, take care.